Hey, I don't know what kind of week you've had, but mine's been one of those, where things happen and then they unpack way more than they should have. It's one of those weeks, yeah, and that's where we are right now. It's a bit of a mixed episode, but aren't they all? I gotta tell you that I was thinking about it and I was like, I could have just journaled all of this, but here we are, yeah. I want to start off on a good note, though. I always sometimes think I sound more depressing than I really am. I'm not. I had a good week. I had a couple of good live shows. I can't. If you're a performer and you don't like live shows, then you're not doing it right. You gotta have live shows, and live shows are way more fun and cooler than anything I've done recorded. That's my personal thing. I used to hear about these big actors who are huge on in the Hollywood A-listers, and they would sometimes go back to performing live on stage. And I used to wonder, why would you want to do that when I was a kid? I'd be like, why would you want to do that once you've become a huge star? You're making way more money, uh, potentially less work, definitely less risk. Why would you want to do that? And then once I started performing live, I realized, that's what make there's no nothing more creatively satisfying than to have a live audience come with you through your performance. Come, yeah. All right, I'm not thinking that you are. If no one got this, just ignore it. Let's keep recording. I I always just felt like what I feel like when you're there live, there's this intimacy, a bond that's created that you can't do with movies and scripts. You do. Yeah, I watch films and TVs, and I'm wrong about that. The art is there, and any good art will create a bond between you and those who are taken in that art. Yeah, and but the live experience gives you a moment, a true moment in, and you get to watch it. That's what it is. I've heard of some actors going into the cinema when their movies are released and they watch the audience reaction and stuff. And I guess they're trying to capture that same feeling. And maybe it is then the same feeling because, yeah, it's honest. But also the fact that live, when I do a lot of improvised live shows, it's the intimacy of creating in front of the audience as well. It's not, I think maybe that's why we like live stuff. When it's scripted, you've had time to practice it and you've kind of gone, this is what we're going to do. When it's improvised, you are in that moment trying to create something in front of them. They're seeing the process almost. They're seeing the process and the product at the same time. And maybe it's not fun. Maybe it's the equivalent of these chefs who come up to your table and cook something. And in some ways, it's unique. I'm assuming that's what it might be like. And so I don't even know why I'm talking about that part of it. I think it's just the process. The process interests me. And it's nice to see audiences react to it. For example, I've had people come up after numerous improv shows and tell us, this is scripted. You practiced some of the lines. You knew where this was going. And it's interesting because, sometimes in the beginning when I first started improvising, 15 years ago or something, longer. Oh dear. Okay. Anyway, that's not where we want to go. When I used to go into when I would hear this stuff, when I would do the shows, actually, what I would do is we looked at ways to make sure the audience knew it was improvised. And there are things you do like take a word from if you've ever watched a show, you take a word from the audience. The performers do that. And I think there's this need to feel like we got to tell them, yes, it is improvised, and that's nothing wrong with it. But when I realized there's only so much you can convince them of, some people, and we had this one performer, he moved to the U.S. a bit later on, but his mom used to come and watch us all the time. He was a Syrian dude, and his mom spoke a little bit of English, but she understood what was going on. And I think for the 2 years that she came in, she would drop in to watch the shows. For 2 years, she just kept fighting with her son about that this was not scripted. She was insistent that you guys rehearsed it and did it. And that says something about good work, I suppose. Although I've seen people do bad improv work and the audience is still like, whoa, is that scripted? And I'm like, why would they script that? Why would we script that? And that's the cool part of it, So there's this whole feeling of like, it really is being done. There's this risk associated with lie, and the payoff when it works well, the payoff is just the most amazing thing. So that's where we're at. I did a show recently, and it was called the Rushdie's Comedy Souk. Rushdie is a fellow comic who performs stand-up and improv here in Dubai with me as well, and he does this night at the Courtyard Playhouse where I do a lot of my performances when I'm in Dubai. And they do improv most of the nights. Rushdie's Comedy Souk is a bit of a mixed bag as well. And I think his idea is like it's a souk. So it's anything. Some nights there are some stand-up comics. Sometimes it's just improv. On the night I did it last week, there was this dancer who used words from the audience to create something. So interesting night that he kind of hosts. And we put on 2 bits of improv in the first act and the second act. And the first act was fun because I performed with Marie, Rushdie, and myself. We're 3 improv performers and comics. And it was this format where we just turn to the audience and we go, hey, give us some ideas about most likely to, like, fill that in for us, right? And people shout out stuff like they go, most likely to oversleep, most likely to be the president of a country. And after they've said it to us, we do a little countdown and then we point at each other. And the performer that gets the most votes, it's a little bit of a laugh to go, we all think it should be you. And and then we kind of do mini sketches. We talk a little bit about real life and maybe does it actually fit, or do you just look like that type of person? And we get interesting ones. The funny thing is, one of the most common ones we get, and we've done it a few times now, is most likely to go to jail. And 90% of the time, the majority point at me. And I looked at myself and I went, yes, there has been an incident, but also, like, why? I looked at my other performers, especially go online and look at Rushdie, and I'm like, I'm sorry, he's a friend, but I was like, I don't know, he looks like he looks more like someone who'd go to jail than me. I mean, we're talking about looks, right? They don't know our backgrounds, they don't know our history, so I'm like, why would they think me over him? And that's one of the things that stuck with me. And then in the second act, Rushdie and I, we do a 2-person act. We actually started this show pre-COVID. It was something we were working on and we had done it a few times. And then with COVID, I realized it had just fallen away. We forgot. We kind of knew the show was, but we just kind of left it. And the other day we just went, hey, we really enjoyed performing it. Why don't we go back and develop it further? And it basically is titled The World's Greatest Improv Show. I know it's meant to sound overly cocky for a reason. Obviously, to anybody, what I mean by that is that it's going to be dumb. We're oversetting the bar and we're never going to reach it, right? It's this inner joke we have with the audience. Occasionally, some audience members don't get it and they go, no, or some of the performers, and they're like, are you sure you're going to tell the audience that? Like, that's a lot of pressure. And I'm like, I think most people are intelligent enough to get it. Anywho, that's the name of the show. And what we do is we get them to tell us everything they would think the greatest show should include, and we write those ideas down around the stage because in chalk or whatever, and then we try to do this whole 3-act play in which we incorporate everything they've said, and sometimes it's really forced. It's meant to be bad, all right? Without going into detail, I love performing that with Rushdie because he's so hilarious and he cracks me up while I'm trying to act, and it's just a good show. Anywho, we end the show. I had a great night. Both acts were wonderful. We're saying bye to we're saying bye to the audience, and this one person walks up to me and says, "Hey, that was pretty good." And so just a little bit of background for you to understand this. During the show at the Courtyard, they play these clips in the break, and those clips often have me in them talking about improv and how you should sign up and how it helps and you can be an actor, blah 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 blah. Almost like mini ads, right? So this audience member, he comes up to me and he goes, hey, good show. I haven't seen you before live. It just so happened that he's not been on a night where I was performing. I haven't seen you live, and but I kept seeing you in these videos, and I always told myself, who's this prick? Who's this prick constantly lecturing and talking about improv in these videos? And I bet he's not even good. So, and then he goes, but you can. This was pretty good. All right. He didn't say excellent. To be fair, he said this was pretty good. I get it now. Why you're on the video in the videos and stuff, and I. It was kind of like a cool insight for me to go, that's how people will perceive someone up there in the videos and stuff. And so I was glad that person finally saw me. It was kind of like a really cool, funny moment for me. Apart from these shows, like I said, I've been doing some stand-up. I also just, obviously, as happens in my life, had to miss out on some more gigs. I was booked to do one in Oman for a corporate gig, and I was looking forward to it actually because it sounded like a fun crowd. The agency that booked me, I know them. They're nice, lovely people. And then the company, the client was also a company I know that has a cool vibe to it. So when you get that idea, you're like, okay, when I go in, the chances of having a good, fun audience is high. So so week before the show, I was supposed to go next weekend. I find out that I can't because the Oman visa at the moment, I can't. Normally, if you have a UAE, a GCC visa, you get visa on arrival. Now, I have a Pakistani passport, and I can't get a visa on arrival because my sponsorship over here, a couple of years ago, my wife got the golden visa and she put me and the kiddo under her sponsorship. And now I need my sponsor's approval and for her to come with me to get that visa. I don't get a visa on arrival. I can apply unless I'm traveling with her, or I can apply and she has to travel with me and she's not in the country. So it was pretty embarrassing having to tell the client, sorry guys, I can't do this gig because of being a house husband. That's what my visa says. To be specific, it says house husband, not allowed to work. Wonderful. It hasn't come in the way any time before. I've had this moment where at the Lebanese consulate, they asked for a letter and NOC, but with the Oman one, there was no option of doing that either. So here I am, lost out on some money and a gig, and it's just really frustrating because last month I had the same problem when I wasn't able to get visas for Saudi at that time. There was a block, and then missed out on 2-3 gigs there, and it just kind of it just feels bad. You know what? The only good thing that came out of it was the agent. She had booked me because she was like, hey, I really trust you. You're funny. You're going to do great here. And she was looking forward to taking me. She had bigged me up with the client as well. And then when I told her, well, we can't, she was looking for alternatives. I gave her some names. She looked around. She asked, and then she came back to me and she said, I just spoke to a friend who said, hey, I know a real good comic. He's my favorite. He's really funny. And then her friend sent her the Instagram page, and it was mine. That's so cool, right? My Instagram handle. Not cool because it didn't solve the problem for her, but I felt better that, oh, there's a couple of fans out there. That's great. And she just went, shit, So I feel bad for her. It was so close to the event, and I just feel frustrated about these things that when they happen. I think I work hard and stuff, and then there's this added obstacles that shouldn't be in place. Anyway, I'm grateful for the work I do. I'm grateful for the fact that I get people coming up and still wanting to book me and stuff. It's a good thing that happens. But that was the downer a little bit, and then I had other stuff that was interest. I've been getting up to stuff, visiting some friends. I just realized, AI with Chat GPT and stuff. I use it a lot. All right, and especially for mundane tasks, but I also kind of look into other stuff with it. But here's the thing: I feel like some people, and I say this with all, like, the amount I use it as well for helping me out with life. It's a great tool. Some people believe it's way ahead than it is. Now, I could be completely wrong. I'm not a genius. I have not read up on it enough. I read articles here and there about it because it does interest me, and it's a big part of our lives now, whether I like it or not. Just like any new tech that, it occurs when they come in. I don't know if it's true, but I was reading somewhere also, just passing through on something on the internet, about how when books came out, there was this whole hue and cry about, like, oh my God, this will destroy people and they shouldn't be reading books like this, and so on and so forth. I don't know how true it is, but I'm sure every tech has faced that when it's first come out. So AI is out, but I also think on the other side, people give it way. I had a couple of friends, and I know a few people who are like completely like, this is the whole Terminator moment. And I know I grew up watching it too, and it could happen. I don't know, right? I don't have the details. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the intelligence. It could happen that AI is going to destroy us. But when I look at it, I just kind of go, is it, will it, maybe? How do we know? How do we know what AI wants? How smart AI is? I can't think on its level. If it's all logical. Anywho, it just interested me. And then something happened. One of my friends told me, hey, ask your Chat GPT to tell you your IQ. And so it gave me a range of 125 to 135. And then he laughed and he said, I told 10 people do it, and it did the exact same thing. So you asked Chat GPT then, why'd you give me that score? You don't know. You haven't scored me. And it basically admitted, listen, I just want people to, someone asking me that, I'm assuming they have low self-esteem, so I'm trying to build it up for them. And so that's why I gave you that range. I don't really know without a test. So that got me interested, and I said, okay, give me a short test. Now I was just like, I'm curious. Give me a short test. I want to know. And it gave me a 5-question thing with different things, and it's like, it give us a quick gauge. And my score was lower after that. But out of the 5, it gave me the answers, and it said you got 3 out of 5. And then I looked at one of the questions, and I went, no, you're wrong. That is the correct answer. It was a logical one. And it went, oh, yeah. I made a mistake. Actually, it had skipped a step. So it had given me the wrong answer. Now, if I had believed ChatGPT, I would have been dumber than I thought. And turns out I was less dumber than I thought. So should I feel good about this? I don't know. I don't know. But here we are. And that's what happened. So I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if we're yet at that place where it's going to become sentient and destroy us. I don't know. But we are depending on it too much. And just it's a good tool, but it's a tool. And you got to always remember tech can go wrong as well. So I don't know. Just be a bit more careful with it. So anyway, I did manage to fly around a bit, and I was staying in a hotel, and I forgotten my blade, right? So I used the hotel one, and they give these old school, the single file one. I don't know how anyone has ever shaved with those or why they still exist. We're in a 5-star hotel. This isn't some cheap hotel. They gave us these, and I tried to use it, and it was horrible. I had like cuts all over my neck and my chin. I got a cut on my chin, and I was trying to be careful with it, and it still kind of just cut through stuff. It was so horrible. I'm like, I never use that again. I'm also just wondering, does anyone actually manage to shave properly with those things? So why am I talking about that? It was just painful. It was just one of those things. I'm like, why is this happening? But what's really got me thinking lately was this whole thing about, like, I was looking outside my balcony. I'm on the outskirts of the city and my little outpost out of town, and about 3-4 years in this building, and I've seen different kind of birds that fly through here. There's this one particular one breed that sits and comes most often. And in the last couple of months, I saw pigeons, and in fact, some of my neighbors mentioned that as well to me. Pigeons have started coming into our balconies, and it's kind of weird. It's annoying. Because for the prior to that, the birds that were coming were kind of elegant, and they kept their distance. Birds that belonged in nature, but now these pigeons, right? Not one or two squadrons. It's like they migrated from the urban battlegrounds to my peaceful post, and it hit me. Pigeons are a metaphor for what happens to brands, status, and storytelling when you lose control of your narrative. Let me tell you what I mean. I feel bad for them because now they're seen as dirty, disease-ridden problems, right? In fact, back in the day, they were luxury, literal pets of kings and queens. They were used as messengers in like Persia, ancient Persia, right? Like Egypt, Rome. I think Napoleon used them. Genghis Khan had postal pigeons. Genghis Khan. First of all, is Genghis in Chinggis in Mongolian. So these people go Genghis or Genghis and stuff. I've heard all kinds of pronunciations. The Western people stop pronouncing it wrong. All right, it's Genghis Khan in Mongolian. Yeah, I think I'm correct. Anywho, these pigeons, they were like revered, they were like considered top stuff. Even as late as the World Wars, like pigeons were actually decorated with medals. I'm not making this up, not metal, medals, like real military honors. There's one called Sherami or Sharami, I'm not sure about the pronunciation, who saved like hundreds of lives in World War II after being shot, blinded in one eye, and still delivering a message, right? The French gave him their military medal. I don't know how to pronounce. It's called the Croix de Gras or something like that. And so this pigeon got that, right? He's stuffed and displayed in the Smithsonian now. That's how respected these pigeons were. But look at them now, all right? They didn't change. We change how we see them. There's nothing wrong with the pigeons. They're the same product, all right? They look the same. They do the same stuff, but we just don't like them anymore. And that's why it got interesting to me, because I was thinking, this is what happens to brands all the time, right? Like it's what happened. My wife Sarah was telling me about the Burberry problem, and what happened at one point. Burberry was like the trench coat, military grade, British royalty. Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's. But they expanded too fast. They licensed all over the thing, and suddenly it was like on tracksuits, baseball caps, fake handbags. It basically became associated with chav culture in the UK, and for a while, wearing Burberry went from aspirational to downright embarrassing, just like the pigeon. The problem wasn't the coat. It was overexposure without context. Same with the pigeons. They were once rare, respected, useful, but they over democratized. Is that how you say it? They went mass market. They lost their mythology. Think about it, because it's not just brands. This is happening to people. When someone or something that used to be rare and intentional, and suddenly we're all just too available. We stop seeing the value. You used to have to go to a theater to watch a genius comic work. Now they're uploading 5 crowd work clips a week and getting dunked in on the comments. Dunked on in the comments is the pigeonification of art. Because I think I've worked with luxury brands, and luxury isn't about the object. It's about how we frame the object. You could take a Rolex, you throw it into a pile throw it into a flea market, right? And I guarantee you, people would doubt it's real. You change the context, and the context is the brand. So these pigeons showing up in my balcony, they're not just birds, they're ghosts of a fallen empire, like a warning. It's if a bird that once delivered secrets for like kings and stuff, and now it's become like a sidewalk joke. So can anything or anyone that forgets how it became special in the first place. Maybe that's what I'm really scared of. That we're all one generation away from being seen as vermin, or maybe it's a chance to rebrand right now. Because here's the kicker: pigeons are still smart. They're known for being monogamous. They're still resilient as hell. they're really just waiting for a better PR team now. So maybe there's hope for all of us. All right, that's it is a good thought to keep in mind, and I feel bad for the pigeons now that because there's a part of me that hates them because they do. Anywho, my point was it was just these thoughts started running in my head, and these pigeons sent me off down this pigeonhole. Although pigeonhole now means something else completely, rabbit hole, so that doesn't actually make sense. I've been talking too long, guys. I gotta go clean up my balcony. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you in the next one. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe now because that's what I'm supposed to tell people to do. Take care. Goodbye.